Hey everybody, welcome to Real Talk, my weekly jam where we get real about the stuff most people are afraid to talk about. I'm likely going to make some people uncomfortable on this show, but the point is to shake us out of our normal patterns in service of each of our unique, latent awesomeness. And in order to do that, you must give yourself permission to tell the low down, dirty truth about what you are thinking, feeling, and believing. And that's what Real Talk is about. Now, everything that I'm sharing with you is something that I myself need to heal. And I share that with you because today is certainly an edgy topic for me, of one that, I've been working on for a long time. So can we all agree that we're just going to be in this together? And I promise that you're likely going to experience a full range of emotions in this conversation, but we'll be in it together. And at the end of this live show, as usual, I'm going to share my current favorite bathroom reading, because as a mom, bathroom is the only place in the house that I get enough uninterrupted minutes to actually read and comprehend an intelligent paragraph. So I tend to, to spend some time in the bathroom and with my throne reading. So I am going to give you some inspiration from my personal throne. For those of you who attend Real Talk, you know all about that. But if you're new today and have never attended Real Talk before, then that's something that you can look forward to. And with that, I want to say welcome. Yeah, hi. Aw, hey Joe, hey Narissa, hey Laura, hey Quintera, hey Shonda. Great to see you all. Yes, I'm in a different setting today in my living room. Yes, I have a pink couch. I went through a real pink phase one time and this happened. So I have a pink couch. So you're gonna see my different background today. Anyway, let's dive into today's topic. Today's topic is the number one habit that most people have that kills their aliveness. And that is, drum roll, tolerating. Woo! Tolerating. So if your life was to continue on its current trajectory, are you okay with how it's currently going? Type into the chat. If your life was to continue on its current trajectory, are you okay with how it's going? And if the answer is no, then you are tolerating. And perhaps your life is headed in a direction that you want to be headed, but there could be some cleanup to do. So how often do you do things that you don't want to be doing, but begrudgingly endure it anyway? How often do you do things that you don't want to be doing, but begrudgingly do it anyway? Scan the last 24 hours. What is something that you tolerated or accepted that you didn't want? It could be something you did that you didn't want to be doing. It could even be that you emptied the dishwasher and you were frustrated because maybe you have a partner, a spouse, or kids who share that responsibility, or anyone else that you live with that is, you have an expectation that responsibility would be distributed, but you're always feeling like the one that does it. So you do it begrudgingly, something that you tolerate and you don't say anything about it. So what is something in the last 24 hours that you tolerated or accepted that you didn't want? So it could be something you did, or perhaps you tolerated a way of being by someone else in your life, some way of being treated that you let slide. Yeah. Okay, Christy, tired of being the housewife after 17 years. So, Christy, now there's many versions of what it means to be a housewife. So, what is something that you have been tolerating for far too long? Um, Lauren says, I try not to do anything begrudgingly. No martyrdom. Good for you, Lauren. We aspire to be like you. And Shonda says, yes, noticing every day, daily. Nadia says, yes, every day, tolerating things. Okay, so what is something that you are tolerating? Shonda says, tolerating other people's negativity at work. Mm-hmm. And Stefan, my wife's older son, forgetting to keep his word. Does he forget or just actually choose to disregard? Interesting. Because forgetting is very convenient sometimes. I forgot. Very convenient. It devoid of responsibility. Maya, taking kids to soccer practice last night, so that's something you endured and accepted as maybe part of your duty and obligation, but didn't want to be. Great. Manroop, doing more than my job role at work and not being paid for it. Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And always saying extra time, finishing off jobs there, staying extra time. Okay, great. Christy says, taking on other people's responsibilities. Yes, yes, really good. Nadia says, dishes, making bed, never hearing good morning, not getting a kiss, picking up clothes from the floor. Oh, I get that. Yes. Michelle says, cooking and cleaning the bathroom. Oh, yes, yes. Oh, you guys are so amazing. See, you're even aware of the ways that you've been tolerating. Tolerating is one of the most ineffective ways of being, and learning to accept it as a feeling that you're willing to endure or suck it up even though it doesn't feel good is like complying with opposition to your being. It's like complying with opposition to your well-being. One of the worst things for you, to look at something you don't want and embrace it, not liking it and just accepting it. Now, sometimes we make choices out of love. Might bring the kids to soccer practice out of love, but I can choose that if I want to. But notice where I'm slipping into tolerating it, not liking it, and just accepting it. And this causes suffering, and it kills your aliveness. Remember, today's topic is the number one habit that most people have that kills their aliveness. So tolerating is killing your aliveness. How? Because it makes you resentful. Resentment is such a toxic energy to carry in your system. Resentment means, in the dictionary, it actually means a feeling of indignant displeasure, a feeling of indignant displeasure or persistent ill will or ill feeling. Resentment is literally making yourself take ill. Now, tolerating may not seem quite as bitter as resentment, but it's on the trajectory. It's basically like tolerating that gets moldy, you know? Yep. Has your musting gotten musty, right? It's a musting, like that you must do something, the ways that we tell ourselves we should. So your musting gets musty. Do you feel that? And that resentment is on the trajectory of tolerating. It's a little step beyond, but it's like tolerating gone moldy. Know what you sow. Are you sowing feelings of illness or aliveness? Now, some people say that the opposite of aliveness is indifference. I believe that too, yes, but indifference I think it does slower damage than tolerating. Tolerating is like, the moving walkway at the airport, the one that carries you real fast so you feel like you're superhero speed walking. So tolerating feels like that fast moving walkway towards resentment, and indifference is the slow walking beside it, right? So you're taking the long way or the short way. I mean, the sort of indifference is the slower way towards that toxicity. But tolerating is a speedway towards killing aliveness. Want to see how people are doing here. Yeah, Judith says resentment could be like mental imprisonment. Absolutely. Aha. I'm seeing Shonda saying aha. Yes. What are you saying aha to? I want to know what you're saying aha to. Christy says, yes, it's like violating ourselves. Exactly right. Absolutely. Okay. Oh, Nadia, thank you for saying that. She says, I always watch you in the recording. Today's the first time I watch you live. What a special time to actually be in communication with your life and hearing you say my name. Hi, Nadia. This is great. Okay, so here's a little thing. I'm going to ask you if you are a people pleaser or if you think you might have people pleasing habits. Write PP in the chat if you know you have some people pleasing habits, right? PP. So write PP if that's true for you. Now, how do you know? Some of us are in denial. So let's get simple. Do you have a habit of prioritizing everyone else before yourself? So maybe you were planning to do something today for yourself and then it got derailed. So do you get derailed? Do you put your desires, your aliveness, your needs first or last? If you put them last, or if your needs get bumped down the priority list, then you have PP habits. So go ahead and write PP in the chat. And you might be a recovering PP. I'm a recovering PP. I'm still a PP a little bit, but I'm recovering. So let's take a few light scenarios so you have some examples. Here's one, is so many times I intended to go to yoga class, but then I got a phone call of someone asking me for a favor, my mother, my sister, my spouse, someone asking me for a favor, and instead of saying no and having a boundary, like I've got plans, not even like I have to explain myself of what I'm doing, I would go, oh, well, yoga's not that important. This is more important. And boom, I'm off the priority list. And here I am doing this other thing. And guess what happens after that? Later that night, I'm feeling resentful. Here's another. I had a coworker once who would chronically show up 15 minutes late for her shift, which meant that I had to stay later and do her job and be the responsible one. And I hated confrontation, so I would just tolerate this for months, and not say anything. And at first, I just thought it was, no worries, like I got your back kind of thing. But then it became a habit. Soon I became angry, but I didn't do anything to change it. So I would suffer the anger and frustration in silence, like a silent seething, which is what the quality of resentment is. It's a silent seething, tolerating her behavior and feeling used while sacrificing my well-being. And I didn't stand up for myself, and that really sucked. It robbed me of a lot of aliveness, because even after she arrived at work and would take over and I would leave my shift, this feeling of tolerating and resentment would fester inside me for another hour or two until I could shake it off. And if I couldn't shake it off, guess what? I'd end up taking it out on the other people that I love, right? Being tight, contracted, short-tempered, snapping, bitter. And before you know it, if you accumulate those ways, that way of being across your life, you'll find that your default becomes this kind of dried up, pruny, tense, angry, tight way of being. And people start going like, are you okay? What's wrong with your face? Because the corners of your mouth chronically turn down, and you have a furrowed brow, and people go, what's wrong with your face? And you're like, what? It's just my face. But really, it's just because you've been tolerating too much for too long. So what is something that you know you are tolerating right now that you don't like, but you've been accepting anyway and not doing anything about it? And some of you answered this already, but maybe something else has come up that you're starting to notice as we're getting into this real talk here. So what's something that you're tolerating right now that you don't like, but you've been accepting anyway and not doing anything about it? Nadia says, in her PP, in her people pleaser story, in order to be loved, I gotta give something. Yes, definitely. And a lot of recovering PPs here. That's great. Lauren says, what I've been tolerating is hoping for love from people who can't and won't. Narissa says, I've been tolerating my husband telling me where I need to grow and change. Okay. Kintara saying, I've been tolerating not laughing every day and being too serious. I once saw an actor, I forget what his name was, Glenn something, I forget what his name was, and I saw him do a keynote speech at some event I was at, and he said that one of the ways that he reminds himself not to take himself too seriously was that before he goes into an audition or before he speaks on stage, he puts a jelly donut in his underwear. I'm not recommending that, but I have a version of that maybe is a little cleaner, and that is that I always wear 2 different colored socks. Now, I've been known for that in my family. I've been known for that with my friends, and maybe it's because I grew up with Punky Brewster, but I love it because I look down and it just reminds me not to take myself too seriously. I look down today. I'm not wearing any socks, of course, when I give that example, but I love wearing 2 different colored socks, and that's what it reminds me. When I look down, it's just like, all right, chill out. Don't take yourself so seriously. Cheryl says, tolerating being at a job that I don't want to be at anymore. And Snow of the Valley says, I've noticed that I tolerate my DIL. What's DIL? I don't know what that is. Snapping at my husband, and I don't want to be the cause of an issue between us. So I just walk away, and you hold that within yourself. Yeah. And Claire says, I'm with Cheryl, tolerating my current job. Yes, yes. So, what's interesting is that sometimes when we have these mindful moments, we'll say, why am I putting up with this crap? And then in all seriousness, you'll tell yourself that it's a means to an end. And in the moment, you'll tell yourself that it's easier to not say anything, like some of you have just already confirmed. That it's just easier not to say anything. We'll just sweep that under the rug. Then I don't have to deal with the confrontation, which for us recovering PPs, confrontation is really uncomfortable. That's how we got to be a PP in the first place, because we don't like confrontation, and therefore we don't have clear boundaries. Because when you have boundaries, you have to be willing to stand up for yourself. You have to be willing for people to be opposed to you, and we are so uncomfortable with that we would rather be opposed inside of ourselves than be opposed in confrontation with someone else. So we don't want to deal with confrontation. It's really uncomfortable, so we'd rather endure the ill feeling rather than shoulder the burden and shoulder the burden ourselves. But that, my friends, has to change. If you know that has to change, then write "ready for change" in the chat. Yep. Because what you are doing is talking yourself out of your own needs, and this is a setup for being at war with yourself. Are you an ally or an enemy of yourself? Moment of truth. Told you this real talk might not be easy. So it's confession time. Are you an ally or an enemy of yourself? And this is exactly what I mean when I say the number one habit that kills your aliveness is tolerating. Can you see this vicious cycle? It's vicious. Yes, ready for change. Great. Neri Menru. Snow Valley says, I just told a friend we need to be as kind to ourselves as we are to each other. We are mean to ourselves. Yes, we are. Yeah. Your inner meanie is a weenie. I don't know where that came from. Okay, so what are you going to do about it? In order to grow, you must give up the struggle to remain the same. Einstein says you can't keep on doing the same thing and expect a different result. That's insanity. That's literally the definition of insanity, to keep on doing the same thing and expect a different result. So my question for you, what are the behaviors that I will stop doing effective immediately in order to make space for my dream life? I'm gonna put that in the chat here. What are the behaviors that I will stop doing effective immediately in order to make space for my dream life? Judith, thanks for your comment. She says, I love real talk, enjoying the topic. Yeah. Lauren says it feels like death of the old. Yes, indeed it is. So Quintara has a great question. How do you change when the scene looks the same? Yeah, so you can't wait for the scene to look different, or else you'll be waiting a lifetime. You'll be dead. We can only change our relationship to it, and that starts with you having boundaries. So what are the boundaries you'd like to declare for yourself around what you've been tolerating but are no longer willing to tolerate? And we don't have to do this with a tantrum or with a spitting back at the other person or exploding. This is not about exploding, because we have to own and take responsibility that we're the ones who've accumulated this over time. So I ask myself, what's the most mature way that I can begin to declare boundaries? And there's a way of informing the people in your life. Hey, in the past, I have let this go. I've let this slide, and pretended that it didn't bother me, but that was inauthentic. And I'm sorry that I didn't tell you sooner. You may not even have known the impact of my not holding boundaries around this, but I'm starting to notice the impact to myself, and I'm no longer willing to hold it that way. So here's my request, and would you be willing to meet me in this request? Or here's what I will no longer tolerate. Right? And be a stand for yourself. And you'll notice that as you do this, as you change, the people, the scenario around you can't help but change. But the only one you are in control of is you. It doesn't work to need other people to change in order for your experience to change. Right? Because again, we'll be waiting a lifetime. So as you change, the world around you can't help but change. It's kind of the, I don't know, law of physics. I don't know what kind of law that is, but it makes sense, right? Because of you've changed a variable in the environment, in the scenario that you're in. So the scene hasn't changed, but you've changed and you're part of the scene. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. And as you do this, you'll notice that you start to value yourself more, because it's a form of devaluing, disrespect when we disregard our own well-being and our own needs in favor of tolerating others, whatever we don't want. So you'll start to value yourself more, and the more you value yourself, the more you feed your aliveness. People always want to know, what's my purpose in life? What's my true purpose? Why was I born? Why was I born now? What's my true purpose? Your purpose is very simple. Your purpose in life is to come alive. If you're doing anything other than that, you are likely tolerating and acting from obligation instead of alignment. Alignment feeds aliveness. So here's a very informative beginner practice. You can take out a piece of paper if you have one. If you don't, this is easy to remember, and you can do it later when you do have a paper. Is take a sheet of paper, split it down the middle, and then on one side put acting from alignment, and on the other side acting from obligation. And give yourself, little dings on each one, and just notice throughout the day. Try this for the next 24 hours. Try this for the next 5 hours. Just try this, is to become hyper self-aware of where you tolerate versus where you honor your aliveness. So acting from aliveness, acting from obligation. And obligation is just another way of saying tolerating. And just start to notice the energetic quality of each. And one is life-giving and one is life-destroying. I think that's what you'll notice. And the way that we really begin to change and know what boundaries we need to set in place is to become hyper self-aware of how we're doing it in the first place. How are we getting ourselves into those situations? So I hope that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, what we ultimately want to get to is not to live our life from tolerating, but to live our life from conspiring for others in our lives and conspiring for ourselves. So if you're liking this concept, are you liking this concept? Is this resonating for you? I'm so curious. Go ahead and put a comment in the chat. What is resonating for you in this? And if you're liking this concept and want more like this, then talk to one of our clarity coaches. A clarity coach is someone on our team, someone who's been through all of our programs, and they can facilitate a conversation to get crystal clear on what you're tolerating and where you can come more alive in your life and in your career. Some of you are in the Become a Health Coach program. Some of you are in the Mastery program. This is certainly a concept we go deeper into in the Mastery program. So if you're interested in taking this further and deeper, then talk to a clarity coach by going to healthcoachinstitute.com. So want to see, Shonda says, loving this, so wonderful that you're addressing this. Nadia, loving it. Lauren says, alignment equals aliveness. Yes, absolutely. Okay, and Manrup says, oh my God, yes, obligations. Nadia says, say yes to yourself. Catherine says, trying to put some boundaries is really resonating, and what I will no longer tolerate. Excellent. Excellent. Okay, let's get to throne reading. So this throne reading is appropriate for this topic. And I was cleaning out an old crate of books and pulled out this oldie but super goodie, and just was flipping through it. And it's great because the page that I literally just opened to. This is the 21-Day Consciousness Cleanse by Debbie Ford. I've had the incredible pleasure of meeting Debbie Ford. If you don't know her work is beautiful. Unfortunately, she passed a few years ago, I believe from cancer. Way too young. I believe she was in her 50s. And she wrote some incredible books, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, The Secret of the Shadow, The Best Year of Your Life, Why Good People Do Bad Things. Yeah, she is really a special author, and I was really honored to meet with her. But this book is about getting rid of destructive behaviors. Again, it's called the 21-Day Consciousness Cleanse, and this is my throne reading for this week. And the page that I happen to open up to, because sometimes that's the way I like to read books. Does anyone do that, where instead of reading linearly, you just kind of open it up, because you're only going to be reading a couple paragraphs at a time anyway? So this page that I opened up to happened to be about cleansing rituals and about your longings. So recognizing when you're doing something as a desire of your soul versus doing it out of obligation. So again, like perfect for what we were talking about today. I just love this. And then she's got all kinds of morning practices and good stuff. So that's the throne reading for today. And before we complete this episode of Real Talk, I'm curious, do you have topics that you'd love to see me cover in the future? I'd love to know what kind of provocative dialogue that we can spark on Real Talk, where we get to talk about stuff that most people are afraid to talk about. We like to get real in here. So just to let you know, I'll be away on, I think I'm going to be away next week. Is it next week? I believe I'm going to be away next week. So anyway, I'll be away, but we'll play a former episode of Real Talk. So be sure to tune in at this same time every Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for joining, everyone. If you like it, be sure to like it. And if you know someone who would be fascinated by this topic or would love to be a part of this conversation, go ahead and share it. Click the share button up top and or tag someone in the comments that would be a part of this conversation. Thanks a lot for joining.